Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me with another read aloud for Zach's Lie. Today we're starting on page 143. Now, where we just left off, things are going pretty well for the Grangers. They've sent off that postcard, although El Sereno has found it in June Saunders' mail. Also, Zach left his backpack unattended with its journal in it, and Peter Short has found that backpack. What's going to happen? Let's find out. So, let's go ahead. We're on page 143. So, part 3. Zach in the box. Zach, you're going to Los Angeles with us tomorrow, his mother said. It was early Thursday morning, and Zach was in the kitchen eating a bowl of cereal, waiting for Wanda to get out of the bathroom. If she can't come out in the next few minutes, Caitlin would have to walk to school without him. In their former house, they had 3.5 bathrooms. I really don't want to go, Mom, he said. I have a lot of things going on at school. I'm a stagehand now, you know. I'm supposed to stay after school Friday and help Sam. I'm sure he can spare you for one day. I'm sorry I didn't give you more warning, but I just found out about the book convention yesterday. Publishers from all over the country will be there, as well as retailers. It'll give me a chance to meet them and get some tips for my bookstore. A lot of famous authors will be speaking and signing books. You'll have a good time. While we're there, we'll take Wanda over to UCLA campus for the quick tour. Caitlin's grandfather is in town, and I was going to ride up to the Rubies on Saturday when they take him back. I really don't want to miss that. I'm sure you don't, his mother said. Now, on a completely different subject, I was talking to a salesman at the bookstore yesterday, and he said something about you getting into a fight with a boy at school. Zach nearly dropped his spoon. Everyone knows everything about everybody. He would have to tell Daryl there was a fourth Ian Elko. Eventually, Zach mumbled. What did you say? I wouldn't call it a fight, Zach said. It was more like a little scuffle. It happened weeks ago. No big deal. It is a big deal, and I don't want you fighting or scuffling, she told him. And you're coming with us to Los Angeles. I can't leave you in the house alone. Why not? I stayed in our old house alone, and you didn't have a problem with it back then. It's different now. Yeah, I'm older, Zach said. You know what I mean. Zach knew, but it still seemed ridiculous. How about if I stay with Sam? I couldn't ask him to do that. You don't have to, Zach said. I will. It's too much of an imposition. He's an old man with friends and a life of his own. He doesn't need a boy underfoot. Just let me ask him, Zach pleaded. If he says no, then I'll just go without complaint. His mother thought about it for a moment. Let's take it a step further than that, she said. If you ask him and he says yes, tell him to come by the store after school and I'll be the judge of his enthusiasm and let you know. It's a deal. Wanda came out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her head like a turban. I'm not finished in there, she said. I'll only be a minute. Zach dashed into the bathroom and slammed the door. I mean it, Zach, Wanda shouted at the door. This is an important day for me. The Opera Ghost auditions are today. Mrs. Osborne looked at her watch. Don't worry. If he's not out in 2 minutes, he won't be able to walk to school with his new girlfriend. Wanda laughed. Oh, he'll be out then. Zach and Caitlin got to school about 10 minutes before the bell rang. I'm going to talk to Sam, Zach said. I'll see you in homeroom. He found Sam on top of the hydraulic lift trying to unhook the chain above holding the punching bag. Just in time, Sam said. What are you doing? Zach asked. Clearing out a space so we'll have more room to work with the stage sets and props. He lowered the lift. Let's switch places. I'll hold the bag up while you unhook the chain. Zach got onto the lift and held up the button until he reached the ceiling. Ready? Sam asked. Okay. Sam wrapped his arms around the heavy bag and with a grunt lifted it up. Zach unsnapped the chain from the eye bolt and Sam dropped the bag with a thud. What are you going to do if someone needs the bag? Zach asked, lowering the lift. I guess everyone will just have to stay out of trouble until the production's over. Why don't you and Daryl come back down here after school and we'll haul this bag out of here? What about the auditions? The day before, Mrs. Pyle had made an announcement over the school intercom that students could not be anywhere near the auditorium during auditions. Oh, that's right. Maybe you and Daryl can come by after lunch and give me a hand. Sure. Where are we going to put it? We'll put it up on the stage. I'll get someone to haul it away later this week. What brought you down here, Zach? Zach explained the reason for his early morning visit. You're more than welcome to stay with me at the Nevada, Sam said enthusiastically. In fact, there's a spare room right now, and I'm sure Mrs. Christabel wouldn't mind you bunking there for a couple days. Mom said that you're going to have to convince her that you really want me. She wanted to know if you could stop by the store this afternoon. I can't this afternoon, Sam said. I expect the auditions to run late. You're sitting in on the auditions? I'm on the high school theater committee, and of course, it's my opera. My sister's trying out for the part of Christine. I know, Sam said, and from what I understand, she has a good chance of getting the part. The high school drama instructor told me she has a voice like an angel. Wanda will have some tough competition, though. The bell rang. I better go, Zach said. If I'm late for PE, Mr. Dugan will make me run extra laps and climb the rope to the ceiling of the gym. Well, don't worry about this weekend. I'll drive over to the bookstore later this morning and square it away with your mother. Zach was late for PE, and Mr. Dugan was in a foul mood. He made Zach climb the rope 3 times. He thought Mr. Dugan might skip the extra laps, but he didn't. Still sweating after a shower, Zach wheeled his numb legs down the hallway to his homeroom, but his discomfort did not diminish his contentment. Before he sat down, he stopped at Caitlin's desk and told her the good news about staying at the Nevada. She was happy too. Zach sat down and began going through his binder, trying to find some homework he had finished the night before, when he heard someone say, "Who's Commander If?" Zach's head snapped up. Written in big red letters on the chalkboard was, "Commander If was here." I have no idea, Miss Miller said, but if I find out who wrote this, they'll be spending time after school scrubbing my chalkboard because this red chalk is nearly impossible to erase. Zach stared in disbelief at the board. Caitlin glanced back at him, smiling along with the other students. "This is not a good way to start the day," Mrs. Miller continued. "Your homework had better be finished. Pranks like this put me in a very unforgiving mood." Zach barely heard her. He looked around the room expecting to see at least one of his classmates smirking at him, but there were no smirks. Most of them were desperately trying to find their homework, while others were stacking their assignments neatly on their desks for Mrs. Miller to pick up. He quickly ran through all the possibilities. First possibility: pure coincidence. Someone else had an imaginary friend. If his father and grandfather called their imaginary friend If, then there was a chance that the name was common. But what were the chances of someone naming their imaginary friend Commander? Just about zero, Zach concluded. Second possibility: his father was out of jail and was trying to get in touch with him. Not likely, Zach thought. His father would be a lot more direct. And as far as he knew, his father didn't even know they were living in Elko, or their new last names for that matter. Third possibility: his sister had told one of her friends about her weird brother and his imaginary friend. In turn, they passed the information to their little brother or sister, who couldn't resist playing a joke on the new guy in school. Elko's 3 E's again. This was the only reasonable explanation. He was going to kill Wanda. The effect of the prank on the class seemed to be fading fast as Miss Miller did her best to erase the sentence. By the time class ended, everyone seemed to have forgotten about it, including Caitlin, who didn't mention it once at lunch. She spent almost the whole lunch period talking about what they would do up in the Rubies. Zach didn't hear half of what she said. He was still shaken by the chalkboard incident. A prank wasn't fun unless you were confronted by the victim, but no one had stepped forward yet, and this had worried him. He and Daryl left the cafeteria early to help Sam lug the punching bag up to the stage. Peter Short watched Zach and Daryl get up and leave the cafeteria. He wondered what Zach's reaction would have been if he had joined them at the table with the book he was reading at home. The thought brought a smile to his face. "What's so funny, Peter?" his lunch partner asked. "Nothing," Peter said quickly, getting rid of the smile. He would have to be careful. This fun would be over before it really got going. One of the things his father had taught him was to play his cards close to his chest. Never show them what you have. Keep a poker face. Something as small as a twitch of an eye can give your hand away and the game is over. Be patient. Peter was enjoying this game too much for it to be over. He had told no one about what he had found. He had resisted the temptation to write on the board until this morning. He had been patient. The final bell rang, and still no one had approached Zach about Commander If. He concluded that Miss Miller's negative reaction must have scared them off. After school, Daryl was waiting for him at his locker. "Want to see the Phantom auditions?" "It's a closed audition," Zach said. "The only people allowed into the auditorium are people trying out and the teachers involved in the production." Daryl smiled. "They'll all be sitting down below. I was upstairs earlier today, and you know what I discovered?" Zach shook his head. One of the balcony doors is unlocked. It's dark up there, and if we sit towards the back, no one will see us. Caitlin's mother had picked her up from school for a dentist appointment. The only thing Zach had to do after school was talk to his sister, but he wouldn't be able to do that until she got home from the auditions. Who else knows about the door? Zach wasn't about to sneak up there with a crowd of kids. As soon as a nervous high school student hit a wrong note, one of them would start laughing and they would get caught. Just the two trusty stagehands, Daryl said. In fact, Sam probably would have let us sit in on the auditions if we had asked. Zach seriously doubted that, but he did want to see Wanda audition. He put his things in his locker and they went upstairs to find their seats. Peter Short waited in the park across the street from the Elko Middle School. Soon, most everyone in the building would be in the auditorium watching the auditions, which meant Peter could slip in and out of Miss Miller's room without being seen playing his second card. He gave it 5 more minutes and then started across the street, but did not get very far. "Excuse me?" a voice called from behind him. Peter turned around and saw a man dressed entirely in black. "Do you go to the school?" the man asked. "Why do you want to know?" The man smiled easily with the whitest set of teeth Peter had ever seen. He had black hair pulled into a short ponytail. He wore a black leather coat over a black shirt, tight black jeans, and black cowboy boots with gold tips on the toes. Peter could not believe his bad luck. "My name is Hector Jones," the man said. "Good to meet you, Hector. What do you want? I'm kind of in a hurry." "And your name is?" "Peter Short." Hector put his hand out. On his wrist was a heavy gold watch. On 3 of his fingers were expensive-looking rings. Peter became a lot more interested in Hector Jones. He shook Hector's hand. "Have you gone to this school long, Peter?" "Since 6th grade. I'm in 8th now." "Who was this guy? What did he want?" Hector looked up and down the street. "A lot of cars." "They're having auditions for the high school play today," Peter explained. Hector looked closely at Peter's face. "That must have been quite a black eye at one time." "You should have seen the other guy, Peter said." Hector gave a small laugh. "I'm wondering if I can trust you, Peter." Peter didn't say anything. "I'm in town looking for someone, but it's very important they do not know that I'm looking for them. Do you understand?" "Yeah, I understand." Hector reached into his pocket and came out with a thick roll of bills. He peeled off 2 20s. "If I ask you some questions, can you keep it just between you and me?" Peter stared at the money. "I can keep my mouth shut." "I thought you could." He handed Peter the bills. "Do you get a lot of new students here?" Quite a few. The family I'm looking for has a son about your age. Brown hair, brown eyes, a little taller than you. Anyone like that around here?" Peter thought immediately of Zach Granger, but he had blue eyes. There were a couple of other new kids in school it could be too. "What's their last name?" "They used to go by the name Osborne, but I suspect they no longer are using that name." "Why are you looking for them?" "Mrs. Osborne left her husband. He wants to know where his children are. He wants to know if they're safe." "Are you a private detective or something?" "Yes." "Is there a reward?" $200. Might be enough to get to San Francisco, Peter thought. "Do you have a photo of the family?" "I'm afraid I don't," Hector said. "Do you think you know a boy like this?" "Never show them what you have." Peter wasn't sure if he had anything or not, but he wasn't going to tell Hector this. "Like I said, there's a lot of new kids this year. It's possible that one of them could be who you're looking for. I could do some asking around. How do I get in touch with you?" "I'm staying at the Windsor Hotel, room 222. "What are you going to do when you find them?" "I will tell Mr. Osborne where they are. It will be up to the courts to decide what to do next." "I'll keep my eyes open." "Thank you, Peter. I'm glad we met." So was Peter. He decided to go home and take another look at Zach's journal. He had only skimmed it before, looking for references to Caitlin. Tonight he would read it all the way through. His second card could wait. Zach and Daryl sat in the back row of the balcony, listening to a nervous high school student's audition for the part of Eric, the opera ghost. It was down to 2 boys. One had a very good singing voice, but he was short and a little overweight. Not Zach's idea for this character. The other finalist was tall, muscular, good-looking kid who couldn't hold a tune. Sam was standing on the side stage talking with a group of adults. After a brief conference, Sam walked over to the short boy and shook his hand. There was a subdued applause. "That guy's going to play the lead?" Daryl asked. "It's an opera, Daryl. The lead has to be able to sing. It's not like the movies where they hire the best-looking guy and that they can find regardless of acting talent. In opera, looks aren't that important." "Maybe you should take voice lessons," Daryl said. "Maybe you should shut up." Wanda and another girl came onto the stage. I guess they're going to cast the part of Christine next, Zach said. Which one's your sister? The blonde with short hair. Wow, didn't I tell you to shut up? The people below took their seats, and the first girl moved to her position on center stage. A minute later, the Phantom walked onto the stage and stood next to her. Who's in the Phantom costume? Daryl asked. Sam. Zach recognized the khaki pants under the black cape. The girl has to sing to the Phantom. She's pretty good, Daryl whispered. Zach nodded. The girl was surprisingly good. At their old school, Wanda didn't have much in the way of competition. Midway through the girl's song, the balcony door opened. Get down! Daryl hissed. They ducked below the seat backs and peered at the intruder through the gaps. He was dressed in black. In the dim light, Zach could not make out his features, but the ponytail was clear enough. The man glanced around the balcony for a moment, then found a seat 4 seats down from where they were hiding. Unfortunately, the man was now between them and the door. Zach looked at Daryl and rolled his eyes, wondering who the man was, why he was there, and most importantly, how long they would be trapped. The first Christine finished her song to a loud applause. Crouched behind the seat, Zach and Daryl could not see the stage. After a while, things quieted down, and the music started again. And you know what? My timer is going off. So, we will continue this tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.